This is Fantasy Baseball on Deck. This is also Austin, and I'm excited to talk about one of my favorite fantasy baseball players of all time. Fun facts. I appreciate this guy for a number of reasons. Number one, he strikes out everybody. Number two, he's pretty comical. I can listen to his in-game or like his off-day interviews with the media team in the dugout when he's not pitching. Pretty funny guy. And then number three has an absolutely glorious mustache, and I can always appreciate a funny / glorious mustache at a young age. Not taking yourself too super seriously ever, especially like when you're, the best at your craft kind of thing. So who am I referring to? Obviously, Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease getting traded from the Chicago White Sox to the San Diego Padres. So let's jump into kind of the value of that, how that affects his overall fantasy value, kind of what we expect moving forward. So Dylan Cease, he absolutely does not have like a lazy eye kind of thing, but like, that's what these are the issues that we run into with Photoshoppers, when there's a billion details you got to focus on. His eyeballs get a little excited. And that's not the way that he looks in real life. But anyways, Dylan Cease headed to the Friars, San Diego Padres, the dads of California. So let's go down and see kind of like where he's ranked at. So number 76, Tristan Cockcroft, at least has not moved him up or down since the trade. He stayed steady right where he's at. So the 76 slot, a starting pitcher. Let's go to the baseball reference stats that I kind of want to focus on. So not going into and not holding him like accountable or like expecting him to ever replicate what he did in 2022, because he was second in the Cy Young voting. He finished with 46% of the Cy Young votes in 2022 as a 26-year-old, right? So I think it's still it's not beneficial to us to ever hold people and hold players to their highest standard from before if there's been a dip, because obviously there's been a change in mechanics, change in physiology, age, fatigue, whatever it is. We can't expect Dylan to necessarily be second in Cy Young voting ever again, but I think that we can absolutely expect 90% of what that production was. So let's just focus on what was most recent, being the 2023 stats. And there's 5 separate stats that I want to focus on that kind of like paints the picture of why Dylan wasn't as efficient this past year. And if we just look over as overall stats, the standard pitching. So since 2021, or I guess 2020, he may have been considered a full-time player, but as a reduced season. Let's just go look at 2021, 22, 20, and 23. I kind of stumbled my words there, but you guys don't watch Fantasy Baseball on Deck for the high production value and the high ability for someone to public speak. You just want the information. I'm going to bumble and kind of fumble my words a little bit, just like I did. That was ironic, but the information ideally is going to be good. So we're going to look at the innings pitched, 165, 184, 177. So like the volume is really, really good. At this state in fantasy baseball, starting pitchers are the least credible. I don't know if credible is the right word. Least trustworthy position really at this point from a health perspective, because everyone's getting hurt left and right. So the volume is good. He's heading into his 28 season. Shouldn't have any pitching restrictions given that he hasn't over the last 3 years, which is awesome to see, right? So the other thing that I wanted to focus on was, again, so he's got 177 innings pitched this past season, 214 strikeouts overall. He's eclipsed plus 200 strikeouts 3 times in his career since becoming a full-time player, which I think is really important to note. And then, the strikeouts per 9 innings, just as a overall quality rate, has always been in the double digits. So like there's been a slight decline, but I like to think that if you're not super efficient throughout each game, meaning keeping people off the base paths, that the strikeout rate's going to go down because you're constantly being stressed. You're pitching more out of the stretch. You're throwing overall more pitches per inning. You're getting more fatigued. So like the fact that he was in trouble all the time last year and still had managed 10.9 strikeouts per 9 is great. So let's go down to the 5 stats overall that I want to focus on. And in the left column, K per 9. So for the last 3 seasons, 2021, 22 and 2, 2023, top 3 in strikeouts per 9 innings. So we're like measuring his nastiness, his pepper, his mustard per innings pitched. So the fact that he was second in the AL this past season, even with the rule changes, I think is super awesome. That kind of like now thinking about the rules changes, like everybody's K per 9 obviously went down. 10.88 is awesome. He finished second in all the AL. That's great. Strikeouts in the third column, he has finished in the top 5 3 straight years. So 5th overall. And why bring out like the quality of strikeouts for per inning, and then also the volume, really hitting on the fact that like he's been overall a healthy player. Knock on all of the wood that I can see. I love Dylan Cease. Gosh, please don't get hurt now that I say that like you've been super reliable from a health perspective, but that's the truth. That's why I bring it up from a volume perspective as well. But now let's go into like how hard is he actually getting hit, and that's going to be the home runs per 9 inning, and that's in the also the third column. Okay, home runs per 9 innings. So like he's going up less than 1 home run, 0.966 home runs per 9 innings pitched. So that means that like he's giving up hits essentially, but like they're not leaving the yard. People aren't getting under them. It's going to be more like solid contact, base hit contact. And I think that that's kind of important to hit. So he's like striking out a ton of people, and he's also keeping people, he's not giving them runs around the base. He's not giving up home runs, right? So he's minimizing damage in 2 facets that are really important. And then next is games started in the 4th column. If I look up here, he's been a top 3 games started since becoming a full-time player, and now I guess with 2020. And again, I think that that's just hitting on the dependability of him being available every 5 days, no matter what, whether the team is fighting for a playoff spot or not. And then the next part is walks. So walks, base on balls. Okay, so in regards to walks, I originally thought that like this meant he was really good at walks. This means that he is very bad with walks. So even in 2022, when he was finished second in the Cy Young award race, he was first in the AL and giving up the most walks. So this is a consistent thing across his career. And technically, he gave up only 1 more walk than he did the year before. But I just like to think that that's like something that's fairly correctable. Now, at the same time, if you are a pitcher that relies on swing and miss as much as he does, that obviously means that you have that much more movement. You need to be that much more aware of what your movement does, where it breaks, when it doesn't, and whatever. So I can't expect the walks to necessarily like take a huge dip, but like if we can become any more efficient with keeping runs off the board and having a better defense behind him, I think that like correcting at least the ERA while the WHIP might stay around the same will make a significant difference. And I'll kind of walk you through that. So if we go over to the cheat sheet, so this is the this tab is actually this 2024 starting pitcher evaluation tab. I want to filter by fantasy points 2023 actual value, and I'll talk about this in a future video. But what I've highlighted in turquoise or cyan, however you want to call it, is the value of a starting pitcher taking away the wins and losses. So if everyone in fantasy baseball, you take away their wins and loss bonus. So like if for every win, I took away 5 points, for every loss, I added 5 points, so that everybody's on the same level, kind of disregarding the value of like their run support. That's giving them those bonuses sort of thing. So what I discovered is that if we take away all of that, you like look at some of these players that, like an example, like Logan Webb, 4th overall, would you have known that he was the 4th most individually productive pitcher in all of fantasy baseball, but he had a losing record this past year. So that's indicated by this little star or whatever. But if we go down and find where Dylan is, even though Dylan's WHIP, so anything above 1.200 is going to be highlighted red. So Dylan's WHIP, not good. His strikeouts, awesome. WHIP's not good. ERA, also not good. Maintaining that 10.88 strikeout rate was still enough to like make him, I guess, like 37th in production. And 37th in production is not something that we're looking to draft and maintain. But let's just say that he's going to walk into San Diego being a much better defense behind him. If he's not giving up home runs, he's going to a better ballpark. I'm kind of bearing the lead here. I've got like some stats to look at, but if Dylan's able to even improve, so if the strikeouts stays similar, the innings pitched stays similar, so the volume and the strikeouts are the same, and we just improve either the whip or the ERA to be either the whip 1.20 or below, or the ERA to be that magic number of 3.99 or lower. Let's see what that does. And who I wanted to compare him against or against whatever is Kodai Senga through 9 less innings pitched, but he had like almost the same exact strikeout rate, but his whip was over what we expected it to be, but his ERA just happened to be good enough, or a really good 2.98. So it's a little bit of a jump and a leap of faith or whatever, but like looking at Kodai Senga, similar volume, similar strikeout rate. His whip is too high, similar to Dylan, but also at the same time, like he was able to incur a lower ERA, and the ERA aspect is kind of like less independent than the whip is, right? So with a better defense in every regard, I think that Dylan's going to have a lower ERA, and he's also going to the second biggest ballpark in all of Major League Baseball, or his hardest ballpark to hit home runs, and he doesn't give up home runs as it is. So again, it kind of buried the lead there, but like let's look at kind of the things that are going to most like benefit him kind of moving forward. And I talked about the expectation of like, holy crap, does he have more athletes behind him than he ever has before? So in Chicago, I think only reputable defensive player that like ever made a significant difference was Luis Robert Jr. And he wasn't even available a lot of times due to injury. So if we look at just like the Gold Gloves alone, you've got Manny Machado at third base. Ha-Seong Kim is moving over to shortstop. So he has a Gold Glove, third baseman, and shortstop. So those are like two of the most significant defensive positions. And then as well, Fernando Tatis Jr. won the center field Gold Glove this past year. The underlying information is that Xander Bogaerts has always been a plus defender. He moves over to second base. You have a shortstop talent at second base covering there. Jake Cronenworth has always been a plus defender, and one of the reasons that he's been allowed to stay in that lineup every day, and his versatility of being able to play every position within the infield. Jake Cronenworth being a plus defender, and then also their top prospect being Jackson Merrill, who I think is like the 12th overall prospect in all of Major League Baseball, is actually expected to be the starting center fielder over Tatis. So it's a combination, I'm sure, of like them wanting to give Tatis a little bit of a break because they need him to steal more bases, whatever. But like if Jackson Merrill, 20 years old, is coming in to replace Gold Glove center field Fernando Tatis Jr., that being the hardest position to defend really on the field besides third base and shortstop and center field, like you can expect Jackson Merrill to play incredible defense if he's replacing Tatis. And if Tatis just moves over to left field, like there's just that much better of a defense behind Cease. And I think that's pretty easy to see. And I think that another thing I kind of wanted to like hit on with this starting pitcher or this pitching rotation is, yes, is it leading off with, let's just say Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, Dylan Cease. Well, behind that is Michael King. I think Michael King is going to be incredible. I have him highlighted and bolded on my cheat sheet. I think that he's a huge value. He came over in the trade for Juan Soto this past year from the Yankees. So 4 out of the 5 rotation spots I think are really, really good as long as they're healthy. I think like if you happen to be a Joe Musgrove owner or a Joe Musgrove observer this past season, he was lights out whenever he was able to be on the mound. Yu Darvish, I think, also was having sort of like an all-star level season before the all-star break. He got hurt. And whatever. So Dylan Cease coming in, like, I still expect him to take the volume that he needs to take. But, like, this is going to be a winning roster. They did lose Josh Hader as well. But like overall, I think the bullpen is going to be pretty productive. Most people are below that 3.99 ERA, and I know that these are projections sort of thing, but like the Padres bullpen, pretty good. So let's also go down to the next tab, and thank you for airing. It's really helpful. So if we go to pitching, and I highlight opponent batting average. So across the entire season this past year, San Diego Padres were number 4 in opponent batting average. So like that's kind of hinting towards like, yeah, they actually had quality pitching when they were healthy, but also across the entire season, like it's hard to score runs in San Diego, and the defense is very good. Opposing batting average, not necessarily runs scored, but like the batting average like per at bat. So going on to the next, this should be fielding. Hopefully it loads. You can do it. All right, team fielding percentage across the entire league. San Diego Padres, number 7 overall in Major League Baseball. They did have Trent Grisham, who was also a center field Gold Glove winner, and he's gone. But again, if you're able to supplement and sort of replace him with a player like Jackson Merrill, who's very versatile, then I think they're going to maintain, again, like a top 10 overall defense. And then looking at StatCast and their measurements of, hitting home runs across all Major League ballparks, only Seattle Mariners. T-Mobile Park is harder to hit home runs in. So he's also moving to a very, very pitcher-friendly ballpark, which I think is, obviously going to be super beneficial. And then to sort of hit on, like, obviously we're always going to be drafting pitchers and hitters regardless of what they have around them on their teams. But like, I think that also is just kind of like, it's goofy to hit on and sort of like focus on the importance of what the team aspect is going to be. So I'm kind of filibustering because it's not loading, but this is just the like overall standings and point differentials of this past season. And the Padres finished with 106. So I'll wait for this to load. If it doesn't load, whatever. But the Padres were 4th in the entire NL in run differential, but they missed the playoffs. So they had 104 more runs than they gave up last year, and they were eliminated. They were only 82 and 80. Like they're an anomaly. Like they're just, again, I look at their season last year and just think that it's a super unlucky situation. 104 more runs than they gave up, and they didn't get to go to the playoffs. That they lost Hader and they lost Juan Soto, and neither of those players are things to scoff at. But like, again, getting a Michael King back, who is, I think, going to be incredible, but also getting a Tatis Jr. who is going to play an entire season and be healthy. Manny Machado was hurt last year. He's going to come back at full health, essentially from like a hitting perspective. He's going to start at the DH, but like he was never himself this past year either. Like this is a winning franchise. Like they're absolutely still in win mode. So the fact that like Dylan Cease is going to a franchise that is looking to win now, I think is always kind of like a subjective kind of marker that I appreciate as well. So why does this make sense? So if I think like about trades and when they happen and why they happen, I always think about kind of the underlying reasons, not just like the face value of like this guy is going from one place to the other. And every single other website wants to have the conversation of like, what if this player gets traded to wherever? And like, what does this mean moving forward for this player? To me, it's like, what are the underlying information, the minor league players getting moved around, and what is the reasons for said thing? So I look at this trade. It's 2 pitchers from San Diego, both in the top 100, ESPN top 100 or a Pipeline top 100, going to San Diego for another pitcher. And to me, that says like, okay, they've got a lot of faith in their starting rotation. Their starting rotation being Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove are locked up. They're going to be there for several more years. Dylan Cease has 2 years of control. Michael King is nowhere near arbitration. He only has 4 years of service time, so he also has 2 years of control. And then Johnny Brito, being at the 5th spot, only has 1 year of service time as well. So he's got 3 more years of control. They just said to themselves, like, we don't think we need any starting pitchers. we can sacrifice a couple for the upside of what Dylan Cease is, given that they're in a win now situation. So it's not a fact that like the White Sox traded away a Dylan Cease that they expected to get hurt, but like in today's age, it's like, why did they give up a starting pitcher with so much ceiling upside for two prospects that haven't necessarily proved anything? And it's like, okay, well, if you let Dylan start to pitch throughout this, like the beginning of the year, and he kills it, well, he's only going to improve in value. But if he starts out the year again, kind of struggling, and or if he gets hurt, well, they lost out on every opportunity to trade him, given their situation, the White Sox not being a winning franchise. And I think this just kind of goes into, again, he's got this whole year, $8 million that the White Sox are now going to save, and the whole next year of control as well, to round out and basically say, again, to like sort of like put myself in the mindset of like, okay, the White Sox got rid of Dylan Cease for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons. Like there's not an underlying, like there's not going to be a failure in a physical or whatever. It's truly just like Jerry Reinsdorf. He doesn't get hit. He doesn't get knocked as much as, the Oakland Athletics, but like the White Sox forever have never been all in and have never really like cared to compete in Major League Baseball. He's one of the most hated owners in Major League Baseball. And if you just type in Jerry Reinsdorf news, you see basically like this time around, don't give Jerry Reinsdorf a win over the taxpayers. Like they're lobbying for a new ballpark, and eliminating Dylan Cease from the rotation essentially saves them $8 million from a payroll perspective. But like operationally, if they're not selling games, if they're gonna again finish the year as a losing business or like a non-profitable business, they're gonna not have to pay taxes. And also it's easier for them to lobby for a new stadium, basically saying like, we don't have a winning roster, but at the same time, like our infrastructure isn't good enough for people to like want to come to games. So Jerry Reinsdorf is very much looking to get a new stadium. That's where his interests are, and he wants the taxpayers to build it. And trading Dylan Cease, doing something like that to sort of like take away from the value of the on-field production, is something that's beneficial and strategic on his part to get the taxpayers to, again, like fork over more money, because they won't be profitable. If you're not winning games, people aren't going to want to go to the games and whatever. I'm sure there's more details than that, but if you just kind of look over, just the top headlines of the last couple of days, Reinsdorf threatens to move the White Sox to a new location. Like it's just this movie happens enough times over and over again to where you can kind of fill in the blanks. So 22 minutes, I think that's a pretty efficient video for how at least I do these things. So Dylan Cease, pretty excited about where he's at in the rankings, and got a lot of faith in him kind of having a bounce back year for all the reasons that I just brought up. So hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think, and thank you for your time. Bye.